Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good day to our panelists. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Ilman Hakim bin Abdullah. I will present my research study on e-learning effectiveness during the COVID-19 pandemic among degree students at UiTM Kampus Seremban 3 Negeri Sembilan. I am supervised by Puan Yoshamaliah binti Ngah. Okay, for the research background, Wuhan town has sent a constant number of influenza infection illnesses since December 2019. Yunnan South China Fish Shop had the initial instances. On January 7, 2020, researchers sequenced of the DNA of unidentified viral particles from this individual. The viruses share 96.3% of their genes with a Chinese bat coronavirus and 70% with a SARS syndrome coronavirus. The World Health Organization WHO declared on January 12, 2020 that a novel coronavirus identified in 2019 or severe acute respiratory caused a pandemic. Okay, COVID-19 was originally detected in Malaysia and connected to 3 Chinese persons who had been in Singapore. They traveled through Singapore to Malaysia on January 24, 2020. On February 4, 2020, the first Malaysian was utilized by COVID-19. The 41-year-old arrived from Singapore feverish and coughing. By March 30, 2020, 1.5 billion children or 87% of all students globally who have suffered COVID-19 related education cuts. Over 180 nations have shut down institutions. Global lockdown interrupts children's schooling. UNESCO works to decrease the consequences of school closing and offer online classroom of teaching options to sustain education for everyone. Okay, Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin established home-based schooling to protect education. Malaysian institutions are recommended to consider virtual classroom. Teachers must transition to online classroom even if they are not in innovation. Educators or teachers have never prepared for this, but the Malaysian government helped B40 families and educators by providing internet time so they could continue online study. 52% of Sabah, Malaysia pupils lack the technology to access the internet. Due to limited online courses, facilities and a lack of internet connectivity, digital training is difficult for Malaysia rural and remote students. All these elements are used to explore and discuss e-learning effectiveness among UiTM Seremban students during COVID-19. Okay, for the problem statement, in reaction to the COVID-19 pandemic, higher education institutions are abandoning classroom interaction, stressing the worldwide education industry. UNESCO encouraged colleges and universities to prepare with online educational technology to fight COVID-19 shutdowns. Students are increasingly regarded clients and universities are suppliers of instructional programs in the higher education industry. Related research identified fragmented e-learning explanation. A sense of community is crucial for online engineering management students planning and scheduling according to a study. Okay, the difference between online education and conventional classroom settings as well as the need for educators or teachers to be proficient with e-learning technologies. So that's the problem. It contributes to teachers' unfamiliarity with different teaching setups. Teachers reject instructional software due to poor IT abilities and reluctance to accept new technologies. Teachers say they are handling the demands of online education badly. Supporting teachers may increase the remote learning programs' effectiveness and success. Okay, students, teachers and other community members will not know what ICT can accomplish for e-learning. If there is no investigation into what elements determine its effectiveness, they will not know what makes e-learning so motivating. They also do not understand virtual competency in online education. This research may help students' academic growth by informing all stakeholders and online learning's effectiveness. Okay, now we move to the research questions and research objectives. The research questions consist of 3 questions, which are: first, what is the relationship relationship between information and communication technology ICT toward e-learning effectiveness among degree students in UiTM Seremban 3 Negeri Sembilan. And secondly is what is the relationship between motivations toward e-learning effectiveness among degree students in UiTM Seremban 3. And the lastly is what is the relationship between virtual competence toward e-learning effectiveness among degree students in UiTM Seremban 3. Okay, for the research objective, first to find out the relationship between information and communication technology ICT toward e-learning effectiveness among degree students in UiTM Seremban 3. Secondly is to observe the relationship between motivation toward e-learning effectiveness in UiTM Seremban 3. And thirdly is to discover the relationship between virtual competence toward e-learning effectiveness among degree students in UiTM Seremban 3. Okay, for conceptual framework, we can see that there are direct relationships between three independent variables, which are information, communication, and technology ICT, motivation, and virtual competence to direct variable, which is e-learning effectiveness. Okay, for the hypothesis, so here we can see that there are three independent variables that consist of two hypotheses for each variable. For now, hypothesis is there is no significant relationship between the ID and DV. For alternative hypothesis, and there is significant relationship between ID and DV. Okay, next is methodology. My research design is quantitative method. Then my unit of analysis is focused on undergraduate students at UiTM Seremban 3. Then my sample size is 348 respondents. Stratified random sampling is my sampling technique in the research. Likert scale is my data measurements, and I use survey of questionnaire as my data collection when do the research. Lastly, for data analysis, I use descriptive statistic, Pearson correlation, and multiply regression. Okay, my main finding. Here is the demographic profile, which is to analyze the profile of respondent. As we can see here, the majority of respondent is come from female respondent, which is 67.1%. From frequency is 247 respondents. Then the age of 21 to 23 years old have the highest percentage, which is 70.9%, which the frequency is 261 respondents. Lastly, for the faculty, FSPPP is the highest percentage, which 47.0%, which the frequency is 773 respondents. Okay, for the hypothesis testing. Hypothesis 1, which the objective is to find out the relationship between information and communication technology ICT towards e-learning effectiveness among degree students in UiTM Seremban 3. The analysis is Pearson correlation, and the result is R is 0.499 and p-value is 0.00. The hypothesis is HA1 are accepted and rejected, hypothesis null 1. And secondly is second objective is to observe the relationship between motivation to e-learning effectiveness. The analysis is Pearson correlation. The result is the R is 0.691 and p-value is 0.00. The hypothesis is HA2 accepted and rejected, hypothesis null 2. And the last one is to discover the relationships between virtual competence toward e-learning effectiveness among degree students in UiTM Seremban 3. The analysis is Pearson correlation. The result is R is 0.131 and the p-value is 0.012. The hypothesis is A3 are accepted and rejected the hypothesis null 3. Okay, for the first recommendation is actively engage the learning guardians of students in the process of learning. Actively include kids, parents, or other responsible people in learning. Parents who are the backbone of their children's e-learning make them more productive while they study online. This does not mean we do their coursework. It means we support, encourage, and nurture their progress as a students. It is helpful to explain how understanding careers may aid students. This is significant given the tremendous knowledge and experience learning caregivers will bring to the position. You may include a video showing how classes are done and a summary of instructional methods learning caregivers can employ with their students. Offer learning caregivers recommendations for activities they may perform with their children that do not need a computer or topic expertise. These actions should not need an experienced caretaker. Okay, second point of the recommendation is activities keep watch the video then fill in the blank space. According to the research experience, this form of online learning behavior is common yet leads to little learning. A parent may watch his child watch a movie in one tab while writing his worksheet response in another. 5 minutes later, he could not remember the worksheet or the video because he must pass these courses to graduate. His parents may teach him better study techniques. First, fill out a worksheet even if it needs guessing before moving on. Watch the whole video without taking notes. Try to change as many worksheet answers as possible without rewatching the video. Reply or listen to the movie while completing the assignment and change your answer if necessary. This is negative event, but we can learn from it. Okay, for the last recommendation is the university should involve students in synchronized activities rather than asynchronous activities. The art of problem solving is a popular online curriculum. The student must communicate with the class once a week. Professor asks students questions and occasionally give information during this discussion. He also has a textbook, infinite practice problem, and weekly challenge. Most chat systems are not amazing, but they keep youngsters engaged, usually 90 minutes. Use simple activities that do not need complicated directions. Okay, for the limitation. Firstly is a student cooperation. Survey questions should be organized using Google Form and posted on WhatsApp or Telegram or Facebook or LinkedIn. Online surveys are more likely to be answered. Using this strategy will ensure that the poll was spread fairly and included many perspectives from many backgrounds. Using this technique might take weeks or months to collect hundreds of answers. Since the college has implemented flexible learning, students may continue their degree on campus or online. As a result, most students stay at home. Many kids or children cannot use the internet at home due to their remote locations. Unreliable internet connection will impair students' ability to finish the survey. Okay, secondly of the limitations, which is generalization of findings. When a researcher emphasizes quantity above quality, the study is more likely to include errors. This will harm the study's results, making them irrelevant. The researcher's surveys should thus emphasize data quality. Instead of surveys, researchers should interview respondents. This improves data accuracy. Respondents may offer more precise and accurate answers during the interview since they were not given a limited number of options. This would provide the researcher valuable and consistent supplementary data. Okay, for the last one, limitation is geographic area. The study's location and surroundings are also major limitations. E-success learning at UiTM has been studied. Future studies should examine a range of subject areas and scenarios to compare factors. A multi-country study or research in prosperous countries, which are where online education is recognized and established, and underdeveloped nations where it is new and systems are not constructed. It may produce different conclusion if we do a different geographic area. This concept might be researched further. Okay, for the conclusion part, to conclude, e-learning is the way of the future, and these shocking numbers show that the industry of e-learning is doing very well. E-learning is now easier to use than it has ever been before, thanks to advances in technology like software for managing tasks and time, data visualization, and so on. Aside from that, it has the potential to completely change how we think about how information gets around. It is no longer used by teachers in the ideological bubble as a place to teach. You can get to them by clicking your mouse and think about everything that could happen for a moment. I think that's all from me. Thank you.